A series of bizarre accidents, tragic deaths, and unexplained events began to haunt the cast and crew of The Exorcist, sparking one chilling question. Was the film cursed?
What an excellent day for an exorcism.
Before I get into this, I do want to give a quick spoiler alert in case you haven't watched this film. Warner Brothers found the perfect home for this film. However, they did recreate a replica of the inside of the home in order to accommodate for the large cameras and whatnot. On this replica that was built to look exactly like the inside of the home, a strange occurrence happened even before filming began. At 2:30 a.m. on a Sunday, a pigeon somehow got into the soundstage and flew into a circuit box. This poor pigeon was electrocuted and it caused a short circuit, I believe, or what they call an arc, and a fire broke out. This fire quickly spread and burned most of the set, with the exception of one room that remained untouched, and this room was the room that was to be Reagan's room, which is the possessed girl in the film. This room was also where the exorcism itself would take place in the film, and it's the only one that didn't burn to the ground. Coincidence? And due to this fire, filming was delayed 6 weeks. After the fire, a carpenter who was working on rebuilding the set was working with a spinning blade on cutting a board with those spinning blades, and he ended up severing his thumb on this saw. So his thumb just gone. Another one of the crew, a lighting technician, tried to move out of the way when a fixture began to fall, and so this fixture fell on his foot and cut off one of his toes. So we got a guy who lost a thumb and another guy who lost his toe. And not only this set, which was in Georgetown, had issues, but also in the opening scene of The Exorcist, when the actors are in the desert, this was filmed on site in the Iraqi desert. Now, the plan had been to film mid-spring when the temperatures were mild. Unfortunately, delays in paperwork and inspections required by the Iraqi government caused delays once again. Filming wasn't able to start until mid-July, which is actually the hottest time in summer in the Iraqi desert. And it is said that temperatures can reach up to 130 degrees Fahrenheit. Several of the crewmen got sick due to the heat and suffered from dysentery. I believe that's how you say it. And if you don't know what that is, Google it. It is not a pleasant thing to experience. They also had severe dehydration, cramps, and heat stroke. Now, the statue of the demon Pazuzu, which also comes out in the opening scenes, was supposed to be shipped to this location. However, the statue itself got lost in transit from LA and ended up being shipped to Hong Kong. Baghdad, Hong Kong. I'm not very good with geography and maps, but I'm pretty sure they're not nowhere near each other. I don't think. I don't know. Check the map. I may have failed geography. Now let's get into some strange occurrences that happened to some of the actors. Now, Jason Miller, who is the priest, before even filming began, he was approached by an actual priest that he had never seen in his life, didn't know him. This priest just came up to him, but the priest just walks up to him and casually says, "Those who reveal the devil for the trickster that he is, he will seek retribution against you or try to stop you from unmasking him." And then this priest just simply shook his hand and walked away. Like, what do you say to that? Okay, cool. Thanks. And that wouldn't be the only strange thing that happened around Jason Miller, because Jason Miller's young son was almost killed. He was struck by a motorcycle. The strange thing is that Jason Miller's son said that it had been as if the motorcycle came out of nowhere. He never heard it coming. He never saw it coming. It was just like from one moment to the next, boom, he gets hit by a motorcycle. Thankfully, he survived, but again, he was almost killed. Okay, I just put my headphones on real quick so I can hear better and make sure you guys can hear me okay, because I'm just like blah, blah, blah. You guys are probably don't even hear shit. So anywho, moving on. Ellen Burstyn. What did I say? Ellen Burstyn, who plays Reagan's mother in the film, suffered a permanent back injury during filming. There is a scene in this film where Reagan throws her mother across the floor after she has the crucifix and she's like doing some disturbing things with it, she then pushes her mother, or the demon pushes her mother across the room. Let's just say that this stunt did not go according to plan. And the scream and the look of pain on her face, those are all real. She was not acting, and the director just thought it was so good, they decided to keep it in the film. But in that scene, when you hear her scream, she's for real in pain. Ellen Burstyn had to be laid up in bed for weeks. Linda Blair, who plays Reagan in the film The Exorcist, was only 11 at the time of filming, and she also suffered long-term back injuries. In the film, when the demon is possessing her, Reagan, which is the character she plays, gets tossed around in the bed quite a bit, and a harness ended up breaking when used to toss her around, and due to this, she suffered some long-term back injuries. There was also a rumor that she had suffered a nervous breakdown, which was pretty unusual for her age. Another unlucky occurrence, which this one you may find a little bit amusing and not that big of a deal, but Jason Miller, again, who plays the younger priest in the film, well, he had pea soup, which is what they used in the vomiting scene, explode in his eyes, mouth, and nose, and pretty much all over his face, because the tube that was supposed to spray this out was misaligned. It was initially supposed to just land on his chest, but as we can see in the film, it didn't turn out that way. And his reaction of disgust and also like, ugh, that's actually genuine as well and not acting. But again, the director said, we're keeping it. A lot of this makes me wonder, because I've heard stuff about the director, if maybe he did a lot of this on purpose. I don't know. I don't want to judge. I'm not saying, but I'm kind of saying, like, maybe he did all this on purpose, because I heard he was the type of director to go to extreme lengths to really get that reaction he wanted. But who knows? Don't listen to me. And did you know that there were deaths involved or revolving around the cast and crew of the film The Exorcist? The first death was that of Linda Blair's. Her grandfather died shortly after filming had just began. And an assistant cameraman whose wife was pregnant, and he was looking forward to the birth of his child. It was going to be his first, and it was said that he would not stop talking about it, and he would tell everyone how excited he was for, his child to come into the world. But when the time came, his child was sadly stillborn. And speaking of the director wanting to capture real, genuine reactions and, doing anything to get a good scene, he also wanted to visibly see the actor's breath during Reagan's exorcism, in the film. Now, in the scene where the exorcism is about to take place, when the priests walk into the room is supposed to be so cold that you can visibly see their breath. Now, this was not added in with effects or special effects or anything like that. This was their actual breath, because the director had a refrigeration technician go in there and lower the temperature to where it would be cold enough where you can actually visibly see the actor's breath. This refrigeration technician died shortly after the exorcism scenes were filmed. A custodian who I could not find the name of was shot and killed. And Jack McGowan, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, but Jack McGowan passed away from influenza. He's the one that plays the director in the film, and he dies with his head turned backward after the demon pushes him down the steps. And not even a month later after his death, Vasiliki Maliaros, I am very sorry if I'm not pronouncing these names correctly, but not even a month later, Vasiliki Maliaros, who plays Father Karras' mother, died from natural causes. His mother actually passes away in the film as well, and both she and Jack McGowan passed before they could see the movie's premiere. After these deaths, William Friedkin himself had a priest come in to actually bless the set, the actors, the crew, pretty much anyone and everyone who was involved in this film. The blessing of the set and the actors and crew members actually seemed to help. However, this believed to be curse would come back just as strong once the movie actually premiered. William Friedkin claimed, "There are double exposures in the little girl's face at the end of one reel." So he would say that there would be faces or certain things that you could see over Linda Blair's face, and that there were images and even odd voices that could be heard where no voices should have been. Another crewman also said there were strange images and visions that showed up on film that were never planned. In the film, I know there are certain parts where you can see kind of the demon's face pop up a little, but according to them, there are images and other things that pop up and even voices that can be heard where they shouldn't have been. I rewatched the film and try to catch this, but I don't know if I'm just blind and deaf, probably, but I couldn't really catch any of this. Let me know if you've ever caught anything strange like that. Another bizarre event or happening that was linked to someone in this film was that of 38-year-old X-ray technician Paul Bateson. He plays the X-ray technician, so he was an X-ray technician in real life and also played an X-ray technician in the film when Reagan's mother takes her to the doctor so they can take X-rays of her, to see if there's something wrong with her. It turns out that a film critic by the name of Addison Verrill was found stabbed and beaten to death in his New York apartment on September 14th, 1977. And it turns out that the murderer was none other than Paul Bateson, who was the X-ray technician, in this film. Apparently, Paul had been having thoughts of murder since appearing in the film. He told investigators that he had no motives for the crimes, and he himself said the following: "I just felt like doing it for fun." 10 years later, Mercedes McCambridge, who does the voice of the demon Pazuzu in the film, the actress Linda Blair, it's not her voice when the demon's coming through. It's Mercedes' voice that you can hear. Well, her son ended up killing his wife and 2 daughters before killing himself. Apparently, he had been embezzling funds from a trading company that he worked for, and he was placing them in his mother's name, Mercedes' name. Not wanting to go to prison, and in a moment of desperation, it is believed that that's when he chose to do what he unfortunately did. The first time that the film The Exorcist was ever premiered in Rome, Italy, near the Vatican or close to the Vatican, it just so happens that the theater which it was released in was right between 2 churches, and the day of the release was expected to be a beautiful sunny day, yet a sudden violent rain ended up coming down by the theater right before it opened. The area seemed to be covered by an eerie and haunting lightning storm, and a bolt of lightning actually ended up striking one of the churches and caused a 400-year-old crucifix to fall and just miss the crowd of moviegoers. Now, a lot of us have heard of the wild reactions around the film The Exorcist, because you have to keep in mind, when this film was initially released, there had never been anything like it before. So people were fainting, vomiting, walking out and leaving early because they simply just couldn't take it. And at one point, it was rumored that one could become possessed just by watching the film. And there were some lawsuits involved with this film because a moviegoer who broke her jaw after falling sued Warner Brothers, claiming that the subliminal messages were to blame. Now, this did end up getting settled out of court. Another woman who went to see the film suffered a miscarriage and blamed the film for her miscarriage. Several audience members also claimed to have hallucinations, manic behavior, and random acts of violence were also blamed on the film. Could this just have been due to mass hysteria? You be the judge. A psychologist during that time reported a growing number of patients having horrifying dreams and claiming that demons were talking to them in their sleep. After the film The Exorcist, as you can guess, the demand for exorcisms grew significantly. Hospitals would also be flooded by audience members who had just watched the film, and they'd have severe vomiting and they'd be suffering from hallucinations. Many of the audience members were carried out of the theaters by ambulance. You let me know your opinions. Was this due to mass hysteria revolving around the film? But what about the deaths? What about all these other occurrences? Were all these just mere coincidences of unfortunate events? Or Could there really be a potential so-called curse behind the film? And before I wrap this up, I'll leave you with this quote from Ellen Burstyn. She believed that you don't fool around with that kind of material without it manifesting in some way. Do you agree?